key aspects of this third step. Okay, the first one, remember this, I was saying this setup phase can be really challenging and can be really time-consuming phase. So be aware that attempting to build a gender equality plan that is really meaningful for the whole organization will require a lot of efforts and will take time. So yeah, bear that in mind. But also remember, you know, just don't kill yourself on that. Remember that the perfect, of course, is the enemy of the good. So at some point, it's better to move forward and to make some progress than to remain in an impasse. So just don't take too long on this phase, because it won't help motivation of the key agents. Then we should avoid evaporation. This is very common to happen in the transition from step 2, from the gender analysis, to step 3, okay, to already writing down the objectives and the measures, okay. So revise all the measures under the light of our principles, okay, the principles that we were starting with, and revise everything with critical gender lens, okay, with this feminist approach and this feminist gender lens, to make sure that our gender political framework is not evaporated, okay. Evaporation is this thing that happens when this nice political framework and political approach that tackles power relations, remember that gender is about power, suddenly somehow is evaporated when we actually put that into a specific objective, into a specific measures, okay. So please take care that this does not happen, and that our relations that we have identified are somewhat tackled in the gender equality plan, okay? Then, the key aspect would be engaging stakeholders, and remember that we were saying this is an unceasing activity. It starts with convincing top management positions that we need to have a gender equality plan in the institutions, but it does not end there, okay? It's going to be all along the way throughout the process. We need to keep on engaging actors in order to build stronger alliances, okay? Then, another tip, another key aspect here would be to alternate short-term and soft measures with long-term and more structural ones, okay? These so-called soft measures are those that are focused on things like, for example, knowledge building and capacity building and awareness raising and things like that. But we need to, which are of course necessary, you identified that in one of the groups last Wednesday, that there is still much awareness raising needed, but we need also to be sure that we have more structural ones also in the plan, okay? So we have to alternate both. And what happens with these structural, more structural ones that really tackle the power relations is that, of course, you will face resistances, okay? So be prepared to face resistances. They will appear not only in the implementation phase, which is what we normally think, we want to implement the action and then we have some resistances. No, they will already appearing when we are designing the measures, okay? And one typical resistance here arises precisely when we talk about structural measures, like, for example, positive action, or, you know, like this kind of more hard measures like positive actions, and or also in the USA, they talk about affirmative actions, is the same, okay? Remember when we want to do these kinds of actions, that we can always go for the legal argument, okay? The European Union has a clear framework to set up positive actions. It is part of its gender equality strategy. So try to anticipate to these kind of resistances and really have your arguments prepared on this regard, okay? There are, of course, some positive actions that can be easier, like, you know, like having, for example, some universities have like specific measures for the evaluation of women in the promotion processes. This is a positive action. Or, for example, some universities have what is called a returning schedule after maternity leave. So, for example, they They allow women after the maternity leave to have 1 semester with no teaching schedule, so they can catch up with the research activities, things like that. This is also positive actions and positive measures here, okay? Other ones that are not so fancy and that face more resistances is, for example, quotas, like normally refuted by these meritocratic arguments that we were talking about in our first session. Okay, so these would be the key aspects here. We will leave it here for today. We will see the last session. We will focus on the 4th, 5th, and 6th step. And here I leave you again some useful resources. You have here the introduction to the GEAR tool. This is a really, really nice and exhaustive tool. It was developed by Yellow Window for the European Institute for Gender Equality, and it's a guide specifically for research organizations and higher education institutions. So please check that out. And then you have other resources here. Also, there is people in this group that are not specifically from research organization. I recommend you also to go for this book. In the first day, I was quoting Aruna Rao. I really like her work on organizational culture.